Instructor Bai Yang couldn't help but to ask, the Daoyin technique is said to be amazing, but how amazing is it? How can it increase the speed of genetic energy training? At this time, a middle-aged man with a bit of white hair spoke. Bai Yang, let me tell you this. If you don't practice the Daoyin technique and only use the Wu Xan Xiang Tian technique, your cells will be full after 5 minutes of training. You won't be able to absorb any more. But if you practice the Daoyin technique, your cell capacity will increase by a lot. It can allow you to train for 8 minutes, 10 minutes, or even an hour. The middle-aged man looked towards Luo Feng and the other two. Do you understand now? Luo Feng finally understood after hearing this. The Daoyin technique allows every cell to eat more each day, Luo Feng thought to himself. Cells absorb the energy of the universe and turn it into genetic energy, just like how a person eats food. If a person can only eat 3 bowls of rice, then practicing the Daoyin technique allows them to eat 5 bowls of rice, or 10 bowls of rice. Jiang Yan smiled. If you don't practice the Daoyin technique, let's say that the energy your cells can absorb is 1 unit. Once you practice the Daoyin technique, your cells can absorb 2 units, 3 units, or even more. In other words, your 1 year of training can surpass someone else's 10 years of training. This is the beauty of the Daoyin technique. The fighters at the scene all began to discuss. Clearly they all had a lot to say about the Daoyin technique. In terms of the Daoyin technique, the world's strongest fighter, the head of the Dojo of Limits, Hong, created 9 top-notch Daoyin techniques. If you guys join the Dojo of Limits and contribute enough, you'll have a chance to learn this top-notch Daoyin technique. The fighters all smiled as they tried to entice Luo Feng and the other two. All the major forces in the world hoped to have more and more martial artists. Instructor Luo Feng suddenly spoke. Instructor Jiang Yan smiled as he looked towards Luo Feng. What? Instructor, the silver-haired black-robed fighter who went out with the chief instructor, how could he make us lose our ability to resist with just one look? What kind of power does a fighter have? Luo Feng has never heard of a fighter being this powerful, so he was very curious. Instructor Jiang Yan smiled faintly, and the group of martial artists beside him laughed out loud. Kid, the one who left with the chief instructor is a spirit reader. Spirit reader masters are even rarer than us martial artists. The martial artists laughed and said, of course, spirit readers are usually martial artists. However, they are the most terrifying existences among martial artists. Spirit reader? Luo Feng was startled. Now that the internet is so advanced, Luo Feng has seen an introduction on the internet. It says that spirit readers are a very special existence in the fighter community, and an extremely terrifying existence. However, the internet did not explain in detail what was so scary about it. When you become a martial artist in the future, you'll soon find out about spirit readers. Instructor Jiang Yan laughed. Alright, today's prospective fighter exam ends here. The 3 of you can go home now. The prospective martial artist certificate had to be stamped and entered into the citizen's identity information. They'll probably arrive in a few days. I will inform you when the time comes. Alright, all of you can go back. Yes, instructor. Luo Feng, Yang Wu, and Bai Yang immediately turned around and left the training hall. In front of the limit hall, they were monitored by the armed soldiers of the sector as they left the sector. At the entrance of Mingyue sector, Luo Feng, Yang Wu, and Bai Yang were all smiling. My name is Bai Yang, I'm from Jiangnan's top military academy. My hometown is in Yangzhou City, and since it's summer vacation, I decided to take the exam here. Bai Yang extended his hand and shook hands with Luo Feng and Yang Wu. Nice to meet you too. Jiangnan's top military academy? He had always wanted to enter this military academy. Luo Feng laughed. My name is Luo Feng and this is Yang Wu. We're both from the Xian region's Dojo of Limits. Brother LuoFeng's future will be limitless. Even in our elite class, there aren't many who become fighters. Bai Yang loved making friends. Luo Feng, who stepped into the ranks of a prospective fighter at such a young age, was naturally more than happy to make friends. Who knows, maybe Luo Feng will become an extremely important figure in the future. Yang Wu laughed on the side. Let's not talk too much. It's fate that the 3 of us passed the exam on the same day and place. Today is a good day. Let's find a restaurant and have a good chat. Alright, Bai Yang laughed as he replied. Let's go. Luo Feng also laughed. The 3 of them just passed the prospective fighter exam, so they were all in high spirits. They chose a restaurant to eat lunch together and then went their separate ways. Luo Feng drank a bit today. He only remembered to call his family when he got on the subway. However, there were too many people on the subway. He was afraid that if he said pass the prospective fighter exam, it would attract a crowd. Whatever, I'll call after I get off the subway. After taking the subway line 1 to Zhong and Road Station, you'll have to walk quite a bit to get to line 11. Tell dad, mom and brother. Luo Feng was still very excited. Prospective fighter? His family has been poor for so many years and he's worked hard for so many years. Finally, he's accomplished something. Luo Feng took out his cell phone as he stood on the side of Zhong and Road. Beep. Beep. After dialing the number, Luo Feng waited. Hello, his brother's voice carried from the phone. Luo Feng laughed as he said, it's me. Of course, don't you know what kind of person your brother is? Of course I passed. Haha, right. Alright, Luo Feng held the phone and said happily, mom is home too? Alright, let mom answer the phone. Hello mom, it's me phone. Luo Feng was extremely happy. Luo Feng's eyes couldn't help but to tear up as he listened to his mother's excited voice. After all, he worked so hard for this day for far too long. Mom, you've asked me 3 times already. I really passed the exam. The prospective fighter certificate will be sent home in a few days. I already ate with the other two who passed the exam, laughed Luo Feng. Oh, you're calling Dad? Don't worry Mom, I won't forget. Okay, I know. After hanging up, Luo Feng couldn't help but to let out a smile. Happy, satisfied. He worked hard for so long and trained his technique and blade since he was young. Wasn't it all for this day? Exhale, inhale. Luo Feng took a deep breath and calmed himself down before calling his father's cell phone. In this family, his father, Luo Hong Guo, is the mountain of the family, the pillar of the family. Before Luo Feng became an elite member of the dojo, almost all of the family's expenses were supported by his father's hard work. Even though his mother works, she still has to take care of her two sons. Not to mention that one of them is disabled. His father's home renovation job is extremely tough. His back hurts, his hands get injured and so on. Dad, from now on, you don't have to work so hard anymore, thought Luo Feng to himself. Beep, beep. The phone rang and Luo Feng waited for his father to pick up. Why didn't you pick up? It was past 12 o'clock, so it should be time for dinner. My dad usually takes a break at noon during the renovation, so he should be answering the phone. Luo Feng curiously clicked on the cell phone location search function on his cell phone screen. A map of Yangzhou City quickly appeared on the cell phone screen. One of the little red dots was Luo Feng's current location. The green dot was where his father's phone was. Not too far from here. Luo Feng immediately knew where his father was and couldn't help but to let out a smile. I ran to Dad's side and personally told him that I became a prospective fighter. Immediately, Luo Feng followed the map on his cell phone and swiftly rushed over. Jian District, Tiandu Garden District. Hurry up, move your things faster so that you can rest and have lunch. We can go and eat too. In the private courtyard of one of the villas in the district, Zhang Hao Bai, who was wearing a white t-shirt and white pants, frowned as he urged. Beside him were 3 cold-looking bodyguards. Sir, don't worry. This is a valuable item. We can't be careless. Brothers, put in more effort. There was a truck parked on the road outside the private courtyard, and the truck was filled with wooden furniture. Wooden furniture was very expensive in this day and age. It was a luxury that belonged to the minority. Since most people lived in the city, there were very few places to plant trees. Most of them were for beautification purposes. It was because there were indeed a lot of trees growing outside the human-based cities, but there were also monsters outside the human-based cities. In order to cut down and transport the trees, they had to fight the monsters. One could imagine how high the cost was. Nowadays, most people's furniture was made of plastic, and the taller ones were made of glass. Wooden products were not something that ordinary people could afford. Be careful. The workers of the decoration company carefully moved the heavy furniture from the car to the ground. Then, the 3 employees carefully moved the furniture into the private courtyard. Be careful. Zhang Hao Bai frowned as he reminded them, this is solid wood furniture, it's all high-quality wood. If you break it, your boss will definitely give you trouble. Hoo. The 3 employees carefully moved the furniture. The furniture was made of good materials and was very heavy. It weighed more than 500 kilograms. It was a bit difficult for the 3 employees to move it. Brothers, let's stop and rest for a while. We'll move them into the house in one go later, the employee who was carrying the furniture said. Put the furniture here first, slowly and gently. The 3 employees carefully placed the furniture on the courtyard floor before straightening their backs and letting out a long sigh of relief. Old Luo, I'm hungry. A tall worker from a renovation company moved his body. After moving this set, there are still 2 other sets of furniture. After everything is moved, let's go eat together. Luo Hong Guo laughed as he looked at the other 2 workers. He casually wiped the sweat off his forehead with his shirt. It was July and it was almost 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It was the hottest time of the day. It was indeed hard work for the 3 of them to move over 1,000 pounds of expensive furniture. You guys hurry up. Zhang Hao Bai impatiently urged. Okay. Luo Hong Guo bent down and grabbed the furniture. Brothers, put in more effort and send this set of furniture in. Come on, 1, 2, 3 up. Luo Hong Guo and the other 2 used their strength to lift the furniture. Then they carefully walked up the stairs and quickly entered the house. After a while they walked out. When Luo Hong Guo and the other 2 walked past Zhang Hao Bai, the smell of sweat permeated the air. Zhang Hao Bai couldn't help but frown. Poor people will always be poor. Doing this kind of hard work, they'll be doing hard work for the rest of their lives. Zhang Hao Bai thought to himself. His dad was a millionaire, so he came from a wealthy family. Zhang Hao Bai looked down on those at the bottom of society who did hard work. From his point of view, these people who willingly do hard work didn't have the spirit to fight, so they deserved this kind of hard life. Careful, don't touch the front door. Luo Hong Guo and the other 2 carefully carried the furniture forward. Their clothes were completely soaked in sweat. Beads of sweat seeped out of their foreheads and rolled down their necks. Let's rest outside. Luo Hong Guo and the other 2 put down the furniture again and adjusted their breathing. Go 1, 2, 3 up. Even though Luo Hong Guo and the other 2 were tired, they've been doing this for 20 to 30 years, so they're used to it. They know the limits of their endurance, so they rarely make mistakes. After a while, Luo Hong Guo and the others went to move the last set of furniture. It's really hot. Zhang Hao Bai looked up at the sky. Brother Wang, later we'll go to the restaurant next door and have a meal. Thank you, young master. The 3 bodyguards replied with a smile. Zhang Hao Bai glanced at the 3 workers who were moving the last set of furniture and couldn't help but let out a low humph. Zhang Hao Bai naturally hated these kind of peasants. Suddenly, Zhang Hao Bai's gaze fell on the marble used to pave the path in the courtyard. One of the marble pieces had a crack. This crack was accidentally broken when he was sparring with the bodyguards a few days ago. Oh? Zhang Hao Bai's eyes lit up. I haven't had a lot of pocket money lately, so I can get some. At this time, Luo Hong Guo and the other two were moving the third set of furniture. Suddenly, a cell phone rang. Luo Hong Guo, who was moving the furniture, was happy. It should be phone. But Luo Hong Guo was moving the furniture, so he couldn't pick up the phone, so he could only wait until he put down the furniture before calling back. Let's rest outside for a bit. Put it down gently, slowly. Luo Hong Guo and the other two softly put down the furniture. Luo Hong Guo took out his cell phone from his pocket and looked at the caller ID. It was his son. He couldn't help but smile and was about to call back. What's wrong with you guys? I told you guys to be careful. What are you guys doing? An angry voice suddenly rang out. Luo Hong Guo and the other two workers froze and turned their heads to look. They saw Zhang Hao Bai's face was dark as he angrily pointed at the marble pavement under the furniture. What are you guys doing? Don't be serious. Look, my house's pavement was crushed by you guys. This is Nanshan marble. You can only get it from outside the headquarters city. One piece of marble costs hundreds of thousands. Can you guys even afford it? Luo Hong Guo and the other two looked down. Indeed, on the pavement under the furniture, one of the marble pieces had a small crack. I'll ask your boss what's going on. Zhang Hao Bai said angrily. Brother Wang, you have their company's phone number, right? Call their company. Tell their boss to come here. There's no point in talking to these people. I have their company's phone number here. The bodyguard named Wang immediately took out his cell phone and started dialing. Luo Hong Guo and the other two knew each other. That's not right. The tall worker from the company immediately said, the crack on the marble was there before. I've seen it before. Still quibbling? What's the use of quibbling? Zhang Hao Bai sneered. Luo Hong Guo frowned. As an experienced worker, he knew that this kind of quibbling was the most troublesome. And companies usually care a lot about their reputation. If they really get blackmailed and the company doesn't have evidence to prove that the crack wasn't caused by their workers, then the company can only lose money. If the company loses money, then the three workers responsible for moving the furniture will definitely have their pay cut. Brothers, let's move the furniture in first. Luo Hong Guo said and was about to move the furniture. Move it in? Zhang Hao Bai took 2 steps forward and pushed Luo Hong Guo away. He looked at the 3 workers and yelled, don't play tricks. The furniture is on the marble, that's the evidence. You want to move the furniture in and then deny it? I've seen too many of your little tricks. Wait until your boss comes. Old Luo, old Luo. The other 2 workers went to help Luo Hong Guo, who had been pushed to the ground, up. I'm fine. Luo Hong Guo rubbed his shoulder. Why are you pushing people? We don't even know if we broke the marble, why are you pushing people? The other 2 workers immediately glared and yelled. These hard workers aren't afraid of anything. If they get angry, they'll just fight. Even if they get arrested and sent to the police station, they don't care about money or their lives. The police station usually can't do anything and will let them go. Don't play with me. Zhang Hao Bai kicked the 2 workers' stomachs like lightning. The 2 workers were sent flying and fell to the ground. Look at where you're at if you want to play with me. Zhang Hao Bai laughed coldly. His Zhang family has a lot of connections in Jian region. Beating up a few normal workers is nothing. Old Tian, Daho. Are you okay? Luo Hong Guo was also worried. You young man, how can you be like this? Luo Hong Guo yelled. Zhang Hao Bai smelled the sweat on Luo Hong Guo's body and couldn't help but frown. He waved his hand. Brother Wang, you guys teach them a lesson and make them quiet down. Young master from the decorating company. The bodyguard named Wang handed over his phone. Okay. Zhang Hao Bai waved his hand and the 3 bodyguards immediately went to teach the 3 workers a lesson. Zhang Hao Bai held the phone. Yes, I'm from Sky Capital Garden. Get your boss Ho on the phone. Boss Ho, what happened to the people you delivered today? Their hands and feet were so rough that they cracked the marble pavement in my courtyard. Hurry up and send someone over. Do as you see fit. If this isn't settled, don't even think about getting the rest of the payment for the furniture. Before he could finish, stop. A roar came from outside the courtyard. At this time, Luo Hong Guo and the other 2 workers were forced to stand in the corner of the courtyard by the 3 bulky bodyguards. Their bodies were covered in footprints. The 3 bodyguards and Zhang Hao Bai all turned their heads to look. A blurry silhouette instantly rushed into the courtyard. Zhang Hao Bai immediately recognized it and yelled, Luo Feng, you dare to come to my house. Beat him up. Son of a bitch. Luo Feng immediately saw his father, who was drenched in sweat and covered in footprints, standing in the corner while holding his stomach. LuoFeng's eyes immediately turned red. His father has been doing this kind of hard work for so many years and has to be looked down upon by others. And today he even had to suffer such a thing. One of the 3 bodyguards, a slightly chubby man, sneered as he took a step forward. Get out of my way. Luo Feng roared as fast as lightning, his heavy leg kicked out fiercely. The chubby bodyguard even used his right arm to block. Peng. The heavy kick caused the chubby bodyguard's eyes to widen. He flew 4 to 5 meters in the air before falling down. The other 2 bodyguards on the side jumped in fright. Luo Feng, you dare to come to my house and hit my people. Zhang Hao Bai glared and roared, you're looking to die. You're looking to die. LuoFeng's eyes carried a fierce glint as he roared while clenching his teeth. Attack, attack together. The mad Zhang Hao Bai's face was flushed red as he waved his hand and roared. This Luo Feng dared to cause trouble in his house and hit his bodyguard. Careful, this guy's legs are heavy. The short fat bodyguard rubbed his stomach as he fell to the ground. Blood flowed out of the corner of his mouth and he couldn't get up. Kid, you sure are ruthless. The bodyguard named Wang and the other bodyguard quickly surrounded Luo Feng. After witnessing the power of Luo Feng's kick, these two bodyguards didn't dare to be careless. Luo Feng had already rushed to his father's side, but before he could say anything, Luo Hong Guo said, "I'm fine, Feng, watch your back." In almost an instant, the two bodyguards attacked Luo Feng from the left and right. And that Zhang Hao Bai also slowly closed in. The three of them teamed up. Luo Feng glanced at them from the corner of his eye and instantly turned around. He used the force from his waist and swiftly swung his right arm. At the same time, his palm formed a blade. His entire right arm was like a blade that sliced horizontally. Before the blade arrived, the wind was already blowing. Not good. The bodyguard named Wang's face changed and immediately used both his arms to block Luo Feng's slash. A low-impact sound. Luo Feng's blade heavily chopped onto the bodyguard named Wang's arms. The bodyguard named Wang felt as if his arms weren't his own anymore. The pain caused him to lose all feeling and his right arm lost all strength. He couldn't help but to retreat as he yelled, "My right arm is fractured." What? Zhang Hao Bai, who was about to attack, was shocked. These three bodyguards of his family are all elite members of the dojo. Logically speaking, Luo Feng is an elite member of the dojo, so their strength shouldn't be too different. There's no way he could break the right arm of the bodyguard named Wang, who is also an elite member of the dojo. Not good. The bodyguard named Wang was injured. Only the tall and sturdy black-clothed bodyguard was left. The black-clothed bodyguard's two comrades were defeated one after another, so he was both shocked and angry. The black-clothed bodyguard clenched his teeth and roared as he threw a lightning-fast kick and punch. However, Luo Feng was very nimble. With two swaying movements he dodged two attacks. After that, he mercilessly slashed with his fiercest blade. He raised his right hand high and slashed down like Guangong's blade. It's too fast. The bodyguard in black couldn't dodge in time and could only block with his hands above his head. He gritted his teeth and took the attack head-on. When Luo Feng crazily chopped down with his hand, the black-clothed bodyguard's heart was already filled with fear. Dong. The black-clothed bodyguard felt his arms instantly lose all feeling, and his arms actually went limp from Luo Feng's knife-hand strike. However, Luo Feng's knife-hand strike didn't lose any of its power at all. It pressed down on the black-clothed bodyguard's arms and smashed into his shoulder. The force of over 1,000 kilograms instantly caused the bodyguard to kneel on the ground. How is that possible? Zhang Hao Bai, who was about to ambush him, was so scared that he stopped. Of the three bodyguards, one was clutching his stomach and unable to get up, one had a fractured right arm, and the last one was forced to kneel on the ground by a chop. Zhang Hao Bai. Luo Feng's eyes were about to spit fire, like he wanted to eat someone. What are you doing? Luo Feng, what are you doing? Zhang Hao Bai fiercely took 2 steps back and roared, "This is my home. You trespassed into my home and injured my people. How dare you be so arrogant? You dared to hit my dad and kick my dad." Luo Feng clenched his fists. The muscles on his body were like steel bars, and the veins on his body bulged like earthworms, making him look extremely ferocious. "Your dad, I don't even know who your dad is, so how could I hit your dad and kick you?" Zhang Hao Bai suddenly glared and looked towards the 3 dirty workers with footprints all over their bodies. He immediately understood why Luo Feng charged in and started beating people up without asking any questions. Zhang Hao Bai looked at the man-eating Luo Feng and immediately roared, "Luo Feng, I'm warning you, Peng." Luo Feng's powerful kick, which was as fast as lightning, directly landed on Zhang Hao Bai's stomach. Zhang Hao Bai was kicked to the ground and his face turned red. "Warning my ass." Luo Feng grabbed Zhang Hao Bai's clothes by his neck and lifted him up, causing Zhang Hao Bai's entire body to hover in the air. You. Zhang Hao Bai wanted to speak, but his entire body was hovering in the air as he grabbed the clothes by his neck. This put a lot of pressure on his neck, making it hard for him to even breathe, let alone speak. "Hurry and put the owner down." An angry roar carried over from far away. Around 10 fully armed security guards rushed over with batons in their hands. There were many cameras in the Chindu sector, so the security guards immediately found out about the fight. Anyone who can live in a villa in the sector isn't a normal family, so they didn't dare to be careless. They immediately rushed over and called the police. Luo Feng glanced at the security guards rushing over and laughed coldly at Zhang Hao Bai. He casually threw Zhang Hao Bai onto the lawn in the courtyard. The white clothes on his body were already dyed green by the grass juice. "Dad, are you okay?" Luo Feng walked to his father Luo Hong Guo's side. "I'm fine, it's just some flesh wounds." Luo Hong Guo looked at the 3 pained bodyguards as well as Zhang Hao Bai, who had an ugly expression on his face. He worriedly said in a low voice, "Xiao Feng, you don't know how to control your strength. You've beaten them to this state. You'll have to pay quite a bit of medical fees. They might even sue you." "Yes, little Feng. You were too heavy-handed," another worker said worriedly. "Not heavy-handed, it was good. They didn't even treat us as humans before," another slightly taller worker said angrily. The group of security guards in the sector was quite clear about the rich families in the sector. The 3 bodyguards of the Zhang family were all elite-level bodyguards, and they were all elite dojo students. But now that these 3 were all heavily injured, the security guards didn't dare to mess with Luo Feng. Since being a security guard meant getting a salary, no one wanted to be like the 3 bodyguards and get their bones broken. Do. Suddenly the sound of a police car rang. Everyone couldn't help but to turn their heads. They saw a police car quickly stop in front of the Zhang family's door. The 4 doors of the police car opened, and 4 policemen quickly ran out. The police are here. The security guards immediately moved aside. Not good, the police are here. Luo Hong Guo's father and the other 2 were shocked. Luo Hong Guo pulled Luo Feng to a corner and hurriedly said in a low voice, "Feng, you injured someone. It'll be troublesome when you get to the police station. Don't worry, I'll go find a lawyer for you right now." "Dad, I passed the prospective fighter exam," Luo Feng said softly. Just this sentence made Luo Hong Guo, who was extremely anxious, relax. He couldn't help but to let out a sigh of relief. "Really? That's great. Feng, you passed the exam. Then doesn't that mean the police don't have the right to arrest you? Prospective fighters only need to pass the combat exam to become fighters. Once their fitness level reaches a certain level, they can also train genetic energy. So, the country stipulates, all sorts of cases involving prospective fighters and fighters are handled by the headquarters City Security Bureau. Jiangnan City is naturally handled by the Jiangnan Security Bureau, and normal police departments don't have the right to arrest people. However, Dad, after I pass the exam, I need to go through the approval from the higher-ups. After a few days, the prospective fighter certificate will be sent to my house. Only then will my citizen information be recorded," Luo Feng said quietly. "So from a legal perspective, I'm not a prospective fighter yet. I need to wait a few more days. As long as his citizen information is recorded, Luo Feng will officially be a prospective fighter. In these few days, even if there's trouble, I can just contact the dojo of limits and ask them to provide a guarantee that I passed the prospective fighter exam. Then I can directly leave the police station," said Luo Feng. "However, if there's no trouble, then there's no need to go through so much trouble. I'll only be staying at the police station for a few days. When the time comes, even if I want to stay, they won't dare to make me stay." Luo Hong Guo nodded. "Luo Feng." 2 police officers walked over and one of them shouted, "You dared to trespass on a private property and heavily injure someone. Let's go, follow us to the station." "Police comrade, I'll cooperate with you." Luo Feng smiled as he took a step forward. "Let's go, you only have 1 car. It doesn't seem like it can fit all of you." This caused the 2 police officers to freeze. "Don't worry, I have a car." Zhang Hao Bai turned his head towards the leader of the 4 police officers. "Uncle Lu, my 3 bodyguards and I were all injured by him. We're all witnesses. Bring them along." The police officer called Uncle Lu waved his hand and said, "Luo Feng." Zhang Hao Bai glared at Luo Feng. His heart was filled with resentment. Not only did Luo Feng beat him up for 3 years in high school, but today Luo Feng beat him up again, which made him remember the time when he was beaten up in the dojo. This time, "Luo Feng, even if you don't die, you'll still lose some skin. To injure my bodyguards this badly, that's enough to constitute a criminal case. I'll sentence you to jail for a few years and see if you can still be cocky." Luo Feng smiled as he got into the police car. The cold and dark room was empty. Cold air constantly poured in, causing people to shiver uncontrollably. "This is the interrogation room?" Luo Feng, on the other hand, had a curious look on his face as he carefully looked around the interrogation room. "Throwing me in this dark room alone with the air conditioning turned on? Is this a psychological tactic?" Actually, before this so-called interrogation even started, Luo Feng had already won. After passing the prospective fighter exam, Luo Feng had no fear of the police's methods. In the surveillance room outside the interrogation room, a few policemen looked at the scene recorded by the camera. One of the young policewomen asked curiously, "Head, how come this young man doesn't feel anything at all? If a normal person enters this interrogation room and stays here for half an hour, along with their own thoughts, they'll be scared to the point where they don't know what to do. Don't underestimate him. According to his citizen information, he's an elite member of the dojo. Moreover, he has injured 4 senior students of the dojo," the bald middle-aged policeman said with a smile. "1 injured 4? How powerful? Don't tell me he's already a prospective fighter. If he really is a prospective fighter, then we'll be in big trouble," said one of the young policemen. "He's not a prospective fighter, it's clear from his citizen information," said the bald middle-aged policeman. "Let's go, Xiaoyang, follow me in to interrogate him." "Yes, head." In the interrogation room, Luo Feng has already stayed here for over half an hour. "You guys came?" Luo Feng smiled as he looked at the 2 policemen who came in. The bald middle-aged policeman froze. This young man's calmness was out of his expectations. After that, he and the other young policeman sat in front of the interrogation table. The bald middle-aged policeman smiled. "Sorry, we were interrogating a few other people before, so we took a bit of time. That's why we only came now." "No problem," asked Luo Feng. "What about the 3 workers from the decorating company, where are they now?" "We already let them go home," said the bald middle-aged policeman in a friendly manner. Luo Feng nodded. In this incident, his father Luo Hong Guo and the other 2 were the victims, so naturally they were let off easily. The 3 workers from the decorating company, as well as Zhang Hao Bai and his family's 3 bodyguards, have all told us what happened. The truth isn't in your favor. Do you have anything to say? The bald middle-aged policeman stared at Luo Feng. Normally, when people hear the truth, they'll defend themselves. Luo Feng smiled. "Nothing much, Zhang Hao Bai and his 3 bodyguards, these 4 are trash. How dare they hit my dad? I'm just teaching them a lesson this time." The bald middle-aged policeman and the young policeman were both stunned. The young policeman slammed the table, stood up and yelled, "Luo Feng, behave yourself. This is the police station, don't be so arrogant." "Arrogant? I'm telling you the truth." Luo Feng smiled, "All right, that's all I have to say." The bald middle-aged police frowned, "Luo Feng, you're so arrogant. This testimony will be very disadvantageous to you in court, based on your viciousness and the fact that you did it on purpose. At that time, it wouldn't be a problem for you to be sentenced to a few years in prison. It's better if you explain things clearly." "I have nothing to say." Luo Feng shook his head. The bald middle-aged policeman frowned and carefully looked at Luo Feng. Luo Feng remained silent. Finally, the bald middle-aged policeman waved his hand. "All right, don't regret it when the time comes. Take him away." Luo Feng smiled as he stood up. Two policemen swiftly walked in from the interrogation room and escorted Luo Feng out. Xian Region Jail. This jail is right next to the police station. Nowadays, fighters are too prevalent in society, which leads to a lot of fights. Therefore, many people are locked up in jail. Every sector has a jail to lock up these people. Today, Luo Feng was locked up. After changing into a gray uniform, Luo Feng was locked up. 299, this is the one, go in. The guard pushed Luo Feng in and then locked the door. Most of the people locked up in this jail are people who fight, steal, drive under the influence of alcohol, etc. And some of the suspects who are waiting to be sentenced in court. Luo Feng's incidents of beating up people can be big or small. To put it lightly, he just beat up a few people. But if he really goes to court, Luo Feng can indeed go to jail for a few years. Of course, the prerequisite is, Luo Feng isn't a prospective fighter. In the jail. He knew. There was a bald brute with tattoos on his body lying on the lower bunk bed. Beside him was a middle-aged man who was obediently massaging his shoulders. The bald brute glanced at Luo Feng. "Little punk, your skin is so soft and tender. Not bad, come here and give me a leg massage." Luo Feng looked at this bald brute with curiosity. Rumor has it that the weak are bullied in jail. However, Luo Feng has only heard of it. This is his first time seeing it. "Motherf asterisk her, are you deaf?" The bald man glared at him and stood up in a huff. Interesting, Luo Feng was curious. "Are you looking for a beating?" Seeing that Luo Feng didn't give him any face, the bald brute fiercely waved his fan-like hand towards Luo Feng's head. Luo Feng's body slightly moved and his right hand fiercely extended like a poisonous snake's tongue. He grabbed the bald brute's wrist. "Itch him? Itch him?" The bald brute fiercely tried to pull, but he felt like his arm was trapped by an iron hoop. He couldn't exert any force at all. His face couldn't help but to change. He knew that he kicked a metal plate. "You want me to give you a leg massage?" Luo Feng used force on his right hand and twisted the bald brute's arm at the same time. The bald brute was in so much pain that he bent down and begged for mercy. "Brother, I didn't recognize Mount Tai. Brother, please let me go." The intense pain made him unable to help but to scream. Luo Feng used force with his right hand and flung the bald brute away. The bald brute stumbled and crashed into the wall. "If you still want me to give you a leg massage, you can tell me anytime," Luo Feng said with a bit of mischief. After that, his entire body leaped up and with a slight push from his right hand, he landed on the top bunk of the bed. The bald brute sat paralyzed in the corner and rubbed his right wrist. The middle-aged man in the jail cell and the skinny young man on the other bed looked at the bald brute and then looked at Luo Feng on the top bunk. "Baldy Huang, what's wrong?" A policeman in the jail cell stood at the entrance and laughed. "Who pissed you off? How did you end up like this?" "Well, let me remind you. This new young man in your jail cell beat up 4 elite members of the dojo by himself. Be careful, don't mess with him." After saying that, the policeman hummed a tune and left. "Why didn't you say so earlier?" The bald brute raised his head in fear and looked at the top bunk. "One guy beat up 4 elite members of the dojo, he's that crazy?" Luo Feng, who was sleeping on the bed, was recalling the genetic energy training method that he read in the dojo of limits. "Yeah, since there's nothing to do in the jail cell, I'll wait until it's pitch black and try to train this genetic energy." The reason why fighters have unbeatable power is because of their genetic energy. While Luo Feng was planning his genetic energy training in the jail cell, in a KTV not too far away from the police station in Xian Region, in one of the private rooms. 2 young men each had a girl in their arms and were wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves. One of the young men was Zhang Hao Bai. "All right, you two can leave," said Zhang Hao Bai as he waved his hand. Only Zhang Hao Bai and the other bespectacled youth were left in the private room. "Brother Zhou, I invited you here today to ask for your help," said Zhang Hao Bai. "Just say it," said the bespectacled youth. "As long as I can help, I won't say a word. It's like this, there's someone called Luo Feng. This piece of trash always goes against me." As he said that, Zhang Hao Bai angrily spat out. "This time he beat up 3 of my bodyguards and also beat me up. Brother, I really can't do anything about this. Right now this guy is locked up in the jail. I want to ask Brother Zhou to help me teach Luo Feng a lesson through the people in the jail." "Oh, that's no problem. However, asking the people in the jail to help will cost some money," said the bespectacled youth as he frowned. "Money isn't a problem, I have $100,000 here. After it's done, I'll give you another $100,000, Zhang Hao Bai directly threw a leather bag over. "Ah, great." The bespectacled youth didn't even look at his wallet and nodded. $200,000. "As long as it's not murder, I can do it. Tell me, how do you want to teach that Luo Feng a lesson?" "Break one of his legs and one of his arms," said Zhang Hao Bai as he clenched his teeth. Alright, that's easy, the bespectacled youth immediately nodded in agreement. Zhang Hao Bai reminded, Brother Zhou, this Luo Feng isn't easy to mess with. Even beat up 3 of my bodyguards. Don't worry. The bespectacled youth smiled confidently. Don't worry. Just wait for the good news. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and turn on the notifications so you won't miss any of our upcoming great videos.